Hey guys, it's QuickyBaby and welcome back to World of Tanks, and this time I'm playing in one of my favorite Tier 8 vehicles in the game, the AMX CDC. This is a Tier 8 French premium medium tank, and one of the reasons why I love this is because it's got to be, I think, the fastest Tier 8, at least for the mediums. It goes at 57 kilometers an hour, and it has an incredible engine, 1,200 horsepower. And considering that this vehicle weighs about 34 tons when you've got it fully equipped, that gives it a whopping horsepower to ton ratio of, I believe, over 35. Now, a decent horsepower to ton ratio, even on some light tanks, is between about 20 to 25. So having 35 is just absolutely incredible. This thing goes at its top speed limit up gentle gradients, and it can maintain a very hefty well, not top speed, but it can maintain a very healthy speed up a slope even. Now, if you were thinking, okay, so it's very mobile, it's going to get a bad gun, right? Well, no, you'd be wrong. This thing gets a 90mm that is very competitive indeed. It has 212mm of penetration on its standard rounds, which is more than enough for when you get into a matchup like this. I'm going to be able to penetrate most tanks, but if the going does get tough, as it is going to later on in the replay, you have 259mm APCR penetration rounds, which are very nice indeed for getting through even the thickest of armor. And, of course, as this is a premium vehicle, you can be a little liberal with the APCR rounds that you use. Now, the accuracy of the tank is 0.34, I believe, which is very decent. And the rate of fire is 8.22 rounds a minute. And that is kind of top class for a Tier 8 medium, with very few going above that. I believe probably the Panther 88 and the STA2, I think, having better rate of fire than this vehicle. But pretty much, this vehicle has a better rate of fire than most of the standard 90mm guns, such as on the Pershing or even on the STA1. So that makes this vehicle quite a nice sniper. And the aim time isn't that bad either. It's 2.2 seconds. So you can see that we can quickly re-engage our targets in between our shots. Now, my sixth sense went off there on Malinovka. That's something you've got to watch out for now. This map has completely changed. Previously, this position was very, very, very strong, because people that were down there behind these buildings could not shoot across at you. However, with the render circle changes, you can see the white circle on my map here. That means that everyone in those locations can now shoot across. But I can hit them as well, right? But generally, people who are sitting behind those buildings don't give me such easy kills as we picked up on that SU-100M1. And the problem is that when you get spotted in this location, that people who generally you won't be able to see will absolutely nail you with lovely, easy side shots into your tank. You have to make sure that you fall back down the slope, but even falling back down the slope doesn't make you safe from these locations anymore. So this position has got so much more dangerous. Now, if I was in a really bad matchup with the CDC, I would probably still come here, but I wouldn't feel so comfortable firing as many rounds as I'm firing. When you are in a matchup like this, everyone's view range is just slightly lower than it will be. View ranges go up basically with every tier in the game. So when you're in a tier 10 matchup, you've got to think that people are going to be able to see you more or less when you fire. When you're in a matchup like this, I can take more chances, even if they've got some sneaky tanks in this kind of a region. It's very unlikely they're going to see me in the CDC. I'm sure this vehicle doesn't have the best camo rating. As it is, it's quite tall. But still, with a good camo crew, we're able to get huge snipes off here into our opponents without taking damage. And that's what you really want to do in a CDC. It's a support tank, and we are supporting the team very well. If we were to go up on the hill, we would have had a terrible game. Now, why is that? That's because you've heard that the CDC is highly mobile. You've heard that the CDC has a great gun. But it has absolutely no armor. Literally, I'm not even kidding you. The thickest armor on this tank is at the front, and it is 30mm. Even a tier 1 T1 Cunningham could penetrate the front of a CDC. And so that means you really want to support your team, and in a position such as this, that's just perfect. 3,600 damage and 5 kills with some rather sharp marksmanship. I was even happy about how this game went. One thing you might notice is that I'm actually trying out a new reticule at the moment as we put a round into the Super Pershing there. And I am firing a few APCR rounds here. As the game was getting very, very close indeed, I saw a lot of healthy Tier 8 tanks on the enemy team. And considering I'm one of the last Tier 8s on my team apart from the T-44, I think every shot at this kind of stage of the game matters. And now that they've got their armor frontally towards me, especially for vehicles such as the IS-3 or the Lerva, that's going to be quite tricky to be able to get through for the standard rounds, even though they've got 212mm of penetration. So we're trying to snipe up at this IS here, trying to feather out a target. And as I was saying, I've basically got a new reticule. Unfortunately, that shell went a little low. I should have aimed that a pixel or two higher to be able to hit the side armor of the IS-3 rather than just going through his tracks at the bottom. So, we're going to try and put one more into the IS. Now I load an APCR round to try and get through the front of the Lerva. And once we manage to get through the front of the Lerva with that, we reload our standard ammunition again to try and deal with the Tier 7 Soviet heavy tanks. So you might notice that I'm actually using a new reticule. I've decided that I want to use this green point and a red point to mark where I'm aiming and where the lag behind with the turret is physically aiming as well. Can we find a shot into the IS-3 here? Quite a tricky shot. Not if he gives us the back of his tank. Lovely. Finally managed to damage that Tier 8 Soviet heavy tank. So I was thinking, in this position, we've picked up 7 kills and done 4,200 damage, but we're still only a tank ahead of the enemy team. And when you consider that we've got a Type 58 who's pretty much out, and a T-25 too, who, depending if he's using the top gun or not, isn't really going to have a big impact in this. I felt a lot of pressure in this game. We know that there's a Pershing left on top of the hill. He seems like he's a rather okay player. We've got to watch out for him. So what I'm going to use now is the mobility of the CDC to hopefully regain vision and outflank our opponents. From this kind of range, the terrible view range on the IS-3, which I believe is about 350 meters if I'm not mistaken, he won't be able to see us here. And so this is what you need to do with your CDC. You don't have the armor to be able to outbrawl your opponents, but you have the mobility to be able to outsnipe them. And so if I can try and keep my opponents roughly between, I'd say, maybe 375 and 445 meters, with the excellent view range that I have on this tank with using coffee combined with coated optics and a very skilled crew, I'm going to be able to see them and they're not going to be able to see me. And that's where this vehicle is just so fun towards the end of the game, because you can dictate the pace of the combat. You can dictate the range of the combat. And if you can dictate those two things, then generally you can outplay your opponents. Now I don't fire there because if I fire, I'm going to lower my camo rating. And I thought that if the IS spotted me, that he'd turn around, probably put a shot into me, and also there's another IS that's likely to be behind the buildings. An absolutely disastrous bounce there. Unable to go through the Pershing, just hitting his tracks, and oh dear, I think I aimed a pixel or two too much to the left there. Now check out the camo rating. We don't even get... we actually did get spotted. We put one shot into the IS, but oh no, this is where the armor of this tank is horrific. It's a very big target. We fire another one blind, but the IS doesn't die. I really need him to die right now. Every second that I'm spotted is another chance for his 122mm gun to wreck me. The APCR round bounces off the front of his tank. That Tier 7 Soviet heavy finally bites the dust, and I need to get out of there. We got spotted with that last shot. Sounds like the Pershing missed us. Hopefully that IS-3 doesn't have one in for us. Fair enough. Just look how big this tank is. It's a gigantic, easy target to hit. And when, as I said, you've got 30mm of armor, you just can't afford to get spotted or hit in this vehicle. But at these kind of ranges, we can light up our targets, and great, the T-44 manages to take him down. So this is a very interesting situation. We've got a Black Prince trying to sneak up the slope to go and take on an IS and a Pershing. We've got a Type 58 and T-44 putting pressure on the cap. Now, they have 1 minute and 22 seconds apparently to be able to cap, because the T-44 is actually not in the cap circle. Now I think maybe I should go up. I've got 8 kills, I've got 5,200 damage, there's a Pools medal in sight. But then I realize this is greedy, and I'm bloomin' happy that I did that. In quite a few of my games recently, I've been trying to either push for damage or push for kills. There's no need to right now. We've got the cap circle. We can force the enemies to come to us. And when we spot where the IS was, even though he's a one-shot, there's a possibility that he could have been able to nail us. And also look at where the Pershing was. He was waiting for us to try and advance and take us down. And by relocating out the back here and securing a longer range engagement, which will be more favorable for the CDC, we don't get caught by the IS, we don't get caught by the Pershing, and then we get to shut down the last two vehicles in the game. So what a result for the AMX CDC here. This tank looks so comfortable, and that's because it was in its perfect environment, really, using its mobility to control the range of the engagement. And when you can control the range of the engagement, you can use your superior view range and your superior camera rating to your opponents to be able to snipe them and negate the disadvantage that this tank has, and that is terrible, gigantic, fat armor that can never really take a hit. This enabled us to put this 90mm main armament to work, taking out 2/3 of the enemy team. There are two things that I'd like to highlight at the end of this round. One, always try and create a crossfire. If I had continued to use this position, then the IS-3 would have had his frontal armor towards me. And when he went to go and interrupt the cap circle, would have spotted me, and I would have got absolutely obliterated from range. By falling back, we lit him and his IS friend up and got easy shots into their side armor, while also staying out of the range of the Pershing, who wanted nothing more than to sit up on the hill, which was perfectly the right thing for him to do, considering he only had pretty much a one shot left in his hit points. Another reason why I wanted to make this video is that recently I purchased myself the M4A1 Revolorize because I wanted to train up my French medium tank crew faster, which is now my first 5-skill crew in the game. I just love the AMX 30 prototype that much. And while I've already been having some pretty good games in this tank, I just wanted to give my overall opinion between the two vehicles, because a lot of you might be asking, which one would you rather have, the CDC or the M4A1? So while they're both capable of some great things, I really feel that the CDC is just more fun, at least for me. The M4A1 is immensely satisfying when you're dropping those 390 alpha damage bombs on your opponents. But the fact that the tank's armor is pretty bad, and it just doesn't have the mobility or the engine power that the CDC has, or the 10 degrees of gun depression, as well as the worst rate of fire, has really left me wanting and feeling that I'm unable to carry many situations like I could in the CDC. Nevertheless, the vehicle is still a lot of fun, and I'll give it another 50 or 100 games before I have a more well-rounded opinion. So let's just take a very quick look at the post-game stats. So this was the best result I've had in the CDC so far. I haven't had a Pools medal in a while. Fantastic for picking up those 10 kills, as well as a high caliber and a tank sniper. Unsurprising, considering the marksmanship we were showing at long range at the beginning of the game. To get this, we had to pick up 5,734 damage, 1,661 base experience points, firing 40 shots, hitting 34 of those, 30 penetrating the target. And of the 5,700 damage that we did, 4,800 was at a distance of more than 300 meters. And due to the range of the engagements, we didn't really do much detecting damage, only 618. Now this game we did fire a bunch of APCR rounds, as you can see, but we still nailed a 50,000 credit profit. And including the bonus for being a premium vehicle, this was 5,233 for my double, giving my first 5-skill crew in the game a big slug of experience, which is pretty much why I play the CDC and the M4A1. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please consider giving it a like down below. It really helps the channel out. And if my talk on the M4A1 Revolorize has interested you, what is that tank all about with that 105mm 390 alpha damage main armament, then simply click through up here or use the more info icon in the top right hand corner of your screen to see a full review of that vehicle. And let me know in the comments down below if you are a French premium driver, which is your favorite, the AMX CDC, the M4A1, or the FCM50T. And as always, thank you so much for watching. You've been epic, and hopefully I'll see you soon.